Hi there, it's Lynn. And on this channel, I released quite a while ago a video on what it was like to be a survivor of satanic ritual abuse, which is my history actually from being a child. And I thought I'd create an update on this. And I recorded that video in summer 2025, and now it's March 2026. And I just want to let you know that I am doing wonderfully. And I have, sort of grown in healing my post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, that I knew that I was suffering from, and all survivors will have this, or chronic PTSD, no matter other issues, addictions, or crutches, or things that we use to enable us to function every day. And a lot of us are affected in different ways. And I'm very blessed to be able to have a really core, foundational self now. And I'm able to maintain my balance. I'm able to emotionally regulate. I've got the emotional intelligence to be able to know when I'm triggered, or whether something has sort of created a reaction within me. Quite often it's my body that reacts more than my consciousness. So it's almost like my body reacts to a situation, or it hears a noise, or it hears something subconsciously, and then will send me into a little bit of anxiety. I wouldn't say it's huge nowadays. It's more of a little trigger. I'll need to run to the toilet, or my stomach will turn over or churn, or I'll feel a knot in my solar plexus. And then suddenly I know something has triggered me. And quite often, quite quickly, I can work out what that is and then correct it. I find it very useful to speak to my body, to tell my body how much I love it and respect it and honor it. And I give grace to it for all what it went through for me as a child and younger woman, because I was out of body a lot. I was dancing around in the unicorn realms half the time, I am sure. Another thing that has come up since then is a few memories have come up since that sort of video. And I'm not the kind to want to really talk about those in great detail, because I don't want to traumatize other people, because that's how they lose us, by people talking in great detail what happened to them. Right. So that is not a necessary thing, really. When they go into graphic detail, and that is not something I would ever want to do. But I've had some memories come up. One of them being in a submarine, and being very badly attacked in a submarine, and in fact left for dead. I was left for dead. They thought I was dead, and I wasn't. That's one thing that came up in memory with me last year. It's quite traumatic at the time, because my body went into those memories and that time. In fact, my own body thought we were in 1973, because that's when it happened, when I was 8 years old. And the dream, I was drugged. There was cigarette burns all over me, on my hands, on my arms, on my face. I was banging to get out. So it wasn't a very, of a cell. I was in a cell. It was a not, but I woke up with a start. But sometimes that's a good thing, because it means that the body's feeling safer, that it can start to release certain things that it needs to tell me about, that may be affecting me on a subconscious level, and I don't realize. So I always feel it as a positive, that, okay, you've trusted me enough now to show me what happened. because you need to release that from you. So I felt that that was actually coming out of my physical field, out of the, out of my body. So that's why I felt that was a good thing, that I'd released that and let it go. And I set the intention that I let that go, which I did. Another memory of being in Balmoral and being strung up like a stag in one of the structures, where they hold stags up. There's actually a moment in a film called The Queen with where it was about when Diana died, and the Queen was at Balmoral, and she found a white stag, and Helen Mirren plays the Queen. And I always remember that there was a scene in there where the white stag gets captured, or the stag, not the, I don't think it was the white stag. It was a huge stag, wasn't it? And it was captured, and she didn't want it to be captured. And it was strung up in an outer building. And that memory came in almost as I was watching the film, of being strung up by my wrists, naked from it. And I was a little girl, and I was beaten and tortured in there, and abused in there, and raped. And even now I have carpal tunnel syndrome in my wrists and upper arms. I get numb hands and arms at times when I'm asleep, from the damage that was incurred by being tied up constantly as a young child. So I hope that hasn't triggered you in some way. I didn't mean it to. I just want to tell you that these memories, these things that our bodies have been through, and I can sort of observe it and be quite neutral now. I have healed my inner child. My fragmented inner child is healed. Therefore, I'm much on a more steady sort of footing. So I'm in balance and at 0 point. So I can almost be a little bit better with coping when a memory comes up now than ever before. But these things have to stop. There are children now around the world, and it's happening to them, and we have to stop it. And of course, there's so much being done by the divine in regards to this, but people just have no idea how much this happens on the planet. Thinking that survivors make it up, or it can't possibly, or it must be very rare. No, it's not rare at all. And it's interesting, I'll tell you something. Last week, it was last week, about 10 days ago, I had a memory come up, another one. And I was in meditation because I was suffering from a little bit of anxiety, and I wasn't quite working out where it was coming from. And I thought, okay. So I did a journey, and I went down the route of the anxiety, right? So it's almost like you connect to the energy of where it is in your body, where you're feeling tight or tense or anxious. You connect to that energy, and you set the intention to follow the roots down of that tension to where it's coming from. And as I did that, I came across a tunnel. Now, I'm in my power, and I work with very amazing frequencies. So I have no fear in regards to this. But I felt my body tighten up as I approached the front of the tunnel. I walked in and realized it was a DUMS tunnel. And as I walked in, I suppose I was getting an echo of the past, put it that way. Because in the echo of the past, I saw children in cages. And there was a big tannoy loudspeaker on the walls, more than one. And they were constantly playing music. Now, this music sounded distorted and demonic, and it wasn't 432. It was 440 hertz and beyond, you know, and it was distorted, horrible music that you get in creepy murder mystery films and horror movies, right? It was that sort of music. And it was playing constantly because they didn't want the children to sleep. They wanted the children to be sleep deprived, right? Almost, they were just dehumanizing the children. They were lying in dirty cages with scraps of food they're given, and they were having to go to toilet in their own cages because they weren't letting them go to the toilet. They were dirty, malnourished. Their eyes it just felt like they'd gone, they'd checked out. It almost felt like they were, you know, they were disassociated, which would have been me as well. And yeah, it was a horrible scene, but I knew that they weren't there then. It was hard to explain. It felt like I was looking at the past. And then all of a sudden, I look round and I see myself in the cage. And I'm about 4.5, 5 years old. And I'm rocking in there, just rocking myself, if I can picture. I was rocking myself. Now, I realized that couldn't have been a fragment of me because I collected all fragments of my inner child and aspects. I've been through that and had it confirmed. So I thought, what is this? And I realized it was an echo. It was an echo and an imprint on that timeline, an echo and an imprint of my energy, like energy, sort of almost like a ghost. So, you know, like when you go to haunted houses and you know, you feel an energy of someone there, or we see a fragment of a soul, which is a bit different to what I was seeing, but like an echo of a soul that maybe had gone through some trauma, and the echo of that trauma was sitting on that timeline replaying constantly. And I felt like that was what was going on with me. I was replaying an echo constantly of me rocking in a you know, in a cage in the dumps. Now, I immediately turned the music off and plasmed it, and it shut off, even though it was just the echo. I wanted to do that, yeah. And then I opened the cage and grabbed my echo as such next to me. All right. Now, I could have taken the echo back in, I suppose, through my heart stargate and alchemized her immediately. But what I decided to do was I took all of the echoes, because there was other children in cages and they felt like echoes. Some of them felt like aspects. So some of them, there was soul fragmentation sitting in those cages. So I took all of them at once, opened a portal, took all of them at once, and I took them back through actually my quantum bridge system. I took them through and up and back to source, asking that they be taken for healing, which I know they would have been, to the healing planes, and then back to source, for source to decide what to do with those aspects. All right. And I felt the whole place empty out. It felt like this dumb place had stopped being used. So it wasn't being actively used now. It was an old one. It would have been, because it would have been from the 70s. So it would be 50 years old, 50 odd years old, that dumb. So it felt like it had been shut down and it wasn't being used anymore. And it felt like it was in the USA or Canada, to be honest. It didn't feel British. I didn't feel it was British. So we took all the aspects out and we cleansed and cleared the dumb completely. We plasmed it to clear it and clear that energy completely out and send everything out and back and off that timeline. And that felt really powerful for me in relieving some sort of anxiety or echo that was coming back into my field. I was picking up on it, like, what is this? So that's really interesting, isn't it? That I was feeling that echo. And I was talking to someone years back, who I trust very much, who was saying to me that she could feel that I was haunting the palace of or the home of Balmoral. That she said that she could feel my imprint walking the corridors of Balmoral because so much had been done to me there over the years, and that that imprint. So I'm actively actually in the process of clearing all of my echoes as such from all palaces and all places that I've been, because I've been to many places, including the White House. And and you might think, well, how would that happen with your parents, and how could you be missing for so long with school? Well, it's an interesting point, because I always tried to work that out at the beginning. How could this have possibly happened? People would be asking questions if I was gone that long. Well, it was interesting because I do know that a couple of times as a child, I was off school for 8 weeks or more. And I remember my mum getting a call from child services of why I wasn't in school. And I didn't quite understand what was happening about that. And that didn't make sense to me. Like, I can't understand what that was about. I think that that was after I'd been returned from being somewhere, and they were then calling up. So, yes, at times I would have been gone for 8 weeks or so, which is not that long a period, but is enough to be abused or taken to the States and back, and then you come back. They were smuggling me in and out via a local base that was used by the military in the UK. And there was also a private airfield linked to the United States military that was near me. So that was used. There was also the main big docks where I was, where major container ships came in and parked, or used to park, around when I was a younger girl. So that they probably are not used now as much, but I definitely was taken out that way as well, I feel. And also, I think they placed a clone in my place at home many times. I don't have hardly any school memories. Have a few, but not much at all. So I feel that for months at a time, they would put a clone in my place, and then I would be in the DUMS, or I would be, I know I was taken to Canada for further training when I was 7 or 8 years old. I know that I was hit very hard and punished in the White House when I was about 7 or 8 by saying no to someone who wanted to introduce me to a famous actor. There was children in cages in that bar, hanging up from the ceiling, and there was a barman, and there was drinks being served. I can picture it now. That was a big one that came in to me, and there was a former president of the United States that was the one that asked me to come over to see the actor. He's well known. He's dead now. He's well known for what he was up to. And I believe that was in the White House. I believe that was underneath the White House. When I feel into it, it was a secret place underneath the White House where they would, when the sort of terms of office were running, they would do those things. That's why I think that the ballroom building of the White House right now that has been going on, and the controversy about that, is linked to the fact that they were looking for that evidence of that down there. And I'm sure they've found it and they've not talked about it. Also, that the geometry of the White House and how it was put together was to build the energy underneath there for that purpose. and what the children, what they were doing to the children underneath, almost like them wanting to amplify the power that they wanted to do what they wanted to do. So I do believe that that is linked to that in some way. So, things like this, others are not so at the point of where I am, where those memories haunt them, which I'm so sorry about. And I'm so lucky that I was given so many memories. When I first found out about this in 2019, 2020, I was well into my own soul journey healing, and I was already working quite powerfully as a soul healer and working in the astral realms, and working with some amazing frequencies. But I was blocked. I could feel it, like I was hitting a glass ceiling. And once I started to unravel this, it was very quick for me to lift that damage out, and very quickly, which I did actually. And then I was then able to start to work on the programming. And it's interesting because I was already operating fully well. My core Lynn self had started to shut down the programming that was running, that had been running since I was a child. And some of the programming that they programmed me to do, they couldn't use. And I got that fully confirmed that when I was about 14, they couldn't use me in a particular way anymore. So I was almost like became a bit redundant to them for that, thank God. But I mean, I'm talking that I was, used in sexual black magic rituals to open interdimensional space for powerful leaders of governments. And actually, I know quite often they're puppet masters anyway, but I think I was also used by the shadow government as well, and the dark military. So I was used that way as well because of my abilities to open portal space, interdimensional space, and all that. But it was interesting that when I was 14, as I say, that a particular part of me shut down and was not able to access that anymore. So that's probably the divine stopping that and shutting that down, like you won't use her in that way anymore. That's enough. So that stopped. It was quite interesting. And then I was used, I think, off-planet remote viewing, all of that stuff that I wasn't even aware of that I was doing. And then they couldn't use me after about after 2012, when I was already awake, was already on my spiritual pathway. My programming for those works were shutting down. They weren't able to access me as well as they could before. And of course, I was gaining in my power. I was collecting aspects. I was, working diligently to clear my energetic field. So by the time I got to 2018, 2019, I discovered I'd been abused and I was getting flashbacks. So that then I was digging deep. What is this? What's this about? To then find out the awful truth. But then making me even more determined to shut that interference down. And I'd say 2022 was pivotal. 2022 was the time when a lot of the lines of interference that had been in me that was still sort of running in the background that I wasn't aware of finally was shut down. And I was able to fully retrieve my God spark, we call it, up my pearl energy. And actually all of my altars that in fact were hidden and I didn't know they existed, were released, in fact, and we sent them back to source, which meant that my altars were just a fragmented part of my consciousness, if you think about it. So the best and kindest and nicest thing to do was to send those altars back to source, because what's happening is they're going back to nirvana. They're going back to the essence of pure divine love. So sending them back to source was the kindest and most loving thing to do. And it had no effect on me because I didn't even know they existed. So their memories, the things they've experienced and seen, I didn't need to see. Because why would you want to see everything that you've ever been through when all that will do is re-traumatize you and will put you into mental health problems? That's why I am a great believer in we don't need to go over our fragmented memories. We are fully capable as the immense beings of power and light that we are to be able to function our brain and compensate for what we had to send back, you know? And I know that my real power and everything after that came flooding back as soon as I had sent those altars back to source. There was only core Lynn. There wasn't anybody else running the show in any shape or form. And that I was then able to roll out those protocols to others. I am lucky in the fact that I had a particular assistance as a child with another amazing starseed that was coming in to support me during my mission. And she actually, at some stage, I've had this like confirmed by more than one person, and she's got that too, and I have, that she projected her Palladian star child, sort of like a really powerful, like blueprint of a child at me. And that star child joined me as a child, my energy field. And what that was doing was holding me together, holding me in some sort of like wholeness of the fragmentation that they'd done to me. And because I was so hard to break, apparently I went through 2 or 3 rounds of programming that others hadn't gone through because they couldn't break me. And then when they actually did break me, like they had to like be extra, you know, they had to do more. And then when I said no to that US president, I was punished and nearly died for the punishment of saying no. And evidently, you know, even then I had that, like, you will not, no, I'm not doing what you tell me to. And then, of course, that just incensed them, didn't it? And I was severely punished for saying no and nearly died as a result of that. So a lot of us have had near-death experiences over and over again because, you know, they wanted to try and kill us, yet they wanted to keep us really because they wanted to use us, but wanting to, you know, do as much as they could to you to make you break. You know, the cruelty is just off the scale, isn't it? The cruelty is just off the scale. So I think to myself, actually, all of these Hollywood actors and people that have been MK Ultra'd, because I believe a lot have been, or child actors and child celebrities that have been, you know, programmed and groomed for fame, or all the world leaders that are running, you know, the puppets world leaders that have been MK Ultra'd as children. I feel sorry for them, yeah, because they have been through horrific torture and their alters are running the show. And, you know, they're in core fragmentation. So it could be against their will. You know, like me, anything I did, my alters did, is against my will. It wasn't me doing it. It was a part of me that had been fragmented and tortured to do a particular job, like the remote viewing of planet and teaching other people how to remote view, which I used to do apparently. I have no memories of that. And, you know, it would have been against my core will. It's funny that one thing I used to suffer from terribly as a child and an adult was abscesses. And, you know, if you look at the spiritual meaning for having an abscess come up, I had abscesses everywhere, under my arms, on my backs, inside of my legs, under my boobs. You know, they just came everywhere. And I was nursing for quite a few years. And, you know, they used to look at them and say, Jesus, like, and, you know, they'd lance it for me and dress it, because some of them would get really big and they were so painful and so horrible and unsightly. And do you know what that was? That was anger. You know, that is a rage and an anger deep below that your body is trying to release. So that makes perfect sense that my body was angry at what had been forced to do, what I'd been forced to do. So there was that rage and anger coming up in my physical body without me realizing why. Why am I, where's this coming from? So yeah, you know, how many people around the world that have to deal with all the after effects of these things. And I pray that everybody that has been through this gets help and assistance to deprogram and to lift that oppressive energy that is always comes with when you've been, tortured and abused as a child to that extent. I mean, I am so blessed to be here right now and to be alive, because I'm not supposed to be alive. I'm supposed to be dead. My suicide programming was supposed to go at 59 and I'm 60. So I'm 61 this year, later this year. And I was so blessed and lucky to be able to counteract that and to go beyond it. And to override it and to shut it down. That was the last program that ever bloody ran, and that went. And this has to stop. It has to stop. And of course, I'll spend the rest of my life hoping to be a channel for the divine and being a channel for tools and all of the things that are needed to help other survivors of this, including children. And this is my, real driven passion, that we bring protocols for children when they're rescued from the dumps and other places. That is so needed. And we have access to advanced tools now. We don't need to do it in the old-fashioned way. They don't need to hear. They don't need to have their dissociated parts or memories reintegrated. You don't need to do that. It's not required. There are different ways to reintegrate, right? And I'm living proof of that. And there are memories I've got, and I've got other memories that I could go through with you, but they don't fill my head 24 hours a day. They're there. They're in the background. It's almost like they've gone black and white, right? They're on another timeline. I'm on another timeline. They're healed. They are completed. All of the rituals and things they did with me were all reversed as soon as I corrected and discovered what had happened to me. And that's the power, because the power comes from you. So the power that came from you that they used for inversions or whatever can be completely cancelled out as soon as you discover that you were used in that way. And then that cancels out and negates everything that they tried to do with you when you were a child, all of the inversions, everything. It cancels out the energy and goes multiple timeline at once. And that's very powerful to collapse a system. Apparently that's what the divine wanted with particular souls, that if they could stay enough core self, they have enough core self left to activate the divine self whilst they're in the programming, then you alchemize the programming, and then you help alchemize the programming for the collective. So that is, you help to alchemize the programming on a planetary scale, which is a wonderful thing, So I hope this little video just helps a little bit for you to understand. Occasionally I'll have a dream where I know it's probably linked to my childhood. It never ever scares me. I never feel too upset when I wake up. I'm pretty good most of the time. There might, as I say, there's an odd time something might have come up and it shocked me a bit, but I've got all the tools that I need to manage myself, and I do my daily practice of energy shielding at a very high level, not because I'm scared or afraid, but because I love to keep my field sovereign, and also the daily things I do to keep myself in peace and in a stable and an emotional state. Yeah. And the pursuit of happiness, because we all deserve to be happy. We all deserve to have inner peace, and it is possible, because I'm living proof of that I am at peace, I am in grace and humility, and I just do my best to help as many others as I can, and that's my everyday life, and I have fun and I have lovely experiences, and I'm in Egypt at the moment, having a great time, staying here for a few months in the sunshine, escaping the cold and wet British weather, and enjoying my life, because I want to make it count now, because it feels to me like my life only really began when I woke up. When I really started to regain my power and my sovereignty. That's when my life began. So sending you all my love. And if you are a survivor of satanic ritual abuse and MK Ultra, hang in there. Hang in there. It is possible. But what I will say to you is, it's really important that you reclaim the jurisdiction of Mother, Father, God, and Source for your energetic field. That's vital to your of obtaining control and regaining control of your own energetic field. So I'm sending you all my love, and take care. You're not alone. You're not alone. The divine walks with you and has the tools to assist you. So thank you for listening. And if you haven't subscribed, please can you subscribe to the channel? I'll be putting a lots more videos on here in the next few weeks. And I do have an interview coming up with Guy Anderson in the next week or so, where we talk about my journey a little bit more, and about cloning and what that means, and all of the strange things that go on this planet. Okay, so take care for now, and leave me a comment. If you could like it, as I say, and subscribe, I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening, and till next time, bye.